Here's a make you think. Now, bear with me, I'm not doing so well today, but at least my kidneys and GI feel better. But the 25 years of shit, that's not feeling better. But, anyways, this is a make you think. So, my roommate who's 84 likes his war movies, like Jumping Jack, made in 1952 with Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. Probably the only Jerry Lewis movie I've actually enjoyed. It's black and white, has a lot of good scenes in it. Well, my roommate who's 84 asked me one time, why can't they make movies like this anymore? I want some war movies. Why is there no more World War II movies? All these documentaries talking about it, showing me pictures of wars and photographs. He goes, I want a movie where Dean Martin gets on a plane and parachutes into another country. I want to see an actor from today, like for instance, Nicolas Cage, going to war against the Japanese, paratrooping and all that. Why don't they make those anymore? People still would watch them, wouldn't they? People still want to see World War II movies. Well, this is the problem. There will be movies like that, but it usually only lasts for about 10 or 20 years. And there's a very good reason for that. Now, think about it for a second. During World War II, the American people spent millions and billions and millions of billions of dollars building missiles, planes, helicopters, tanks, jeeps, all of it. Well, after World War II, and we're in peacetime, some of that stuff is used to keep the peace. But there's also a lot of World War II planes just sitting around and just sitting there. You got a lot of these Jeeps just sitting there, not being used. You got a $2 million B-12, B-22, yeah, a B-22 sitting there, a bomber, and nobody's using it. Literally, that $2 million is rusting away. Well, what say today somebody wants to make a World War II movie? 2024, do you think there's a lot of 1950s planes and tanks and jeeps lying around? No. They have to recreate them. We have to build them from scratch. Do you think a director wants to spend millions and millions of dollars just having Boeing build them one World War II plane? And don't forget, it costs millions and millions of dollars to build a plane from today, 2024. If you want a special order, they don't have the machinery, they don't have the blueprints, they don't have what they had in 1940. So that's going to jack up the price. That is why you do not see World War II movies being made today like they used to. They don't have a lot of planes sitting around from World War II. They don't have a lot of Jeeps sitting around from World War II. Back in the 1950s, we had billions of dollars just sitting rusting away. So the film industry rented them out, used them, made money off of them. This is why you see movies like The Hurt Locker coming out now. You'll see a lot more of these desert type equipment being used in movies. You'll see a lot more of the stuff from the early 2000s being used in movies now. Because the dead and not used equipment is usually handed over to either the police departments nowadays. I'm not kidding. The police departments have frag grenades. They have a robot that can go in and shoot somebody. They have old military equipment that costs taxpayers millions of billions of dollars to build. But then the U.S. military is done with it. They don't want it anymore after 20 years. It's old. They spent our money and now they want more money to build new stuff. It's an arms race for a reason. It's a reason why they call it a race. So, what do we do with all those old guns, missiles, planes, robots that can go into a house and shoot somebody? Well, you donate it to the police department. You donate it, you give it to the CIA to bring to other countries. You give it to the film industry to make films. But after a certain point of time, the film industry can't use it anymore. I mean, how many B-22s or B whatever it is, or how many bombers and World War II planes and tanks do you still see in working order? I mean, they would need a lot of work to get them working. I'm sure you could do it, but it cost a fortune. So the film industry does not think it's necessary to make World War II movies like they used to. Instead, they make documentaries about World War II with pictures and old videos and things like that. Having Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis go onto a World War II plane and fly away might not be possible on their budget. But now that you've thought about this, and now that I've made you think of how much money we're wasting on every couple years buying new equipment for the military. We are the most well-funded military, and we have been the most well-funded military since World War II. Yet they continue to need a higher and higher budget. The more we spend on the military, the more risk the American people are at. Like, think of 9/11. 9/11 was because of our military. We put soldiers and Americans in another country. We were controlling another country's politics. We were messing around with their government. Their people hated us. And that is why we got hit. Now, if you believe that Osama bin Laden did it, or if you believe it was a cover-up, it doesn't matter. We were in another country, and we were spending money, and the U.S. people were paying for it. Not only financially, physically. We had to financially pay for it in the 90s, and then in 2000s, we had to pay for it with our buildings coming down and with our lives. Spending more on military does not make us safer. Bringing the troops home and worrying about spending money on defense at home, maybe. But the amount of money we're spending is ridiculous. No other country spends as much as us. You can take any 5 or more, actually it's way more than that, I've heard 10, but let's say 5. You can take any 5 countries around the world, put their military spending together, and it still doesn't equal what we equal. Now, why do we have a target on our back? Because we keep on sending our military out. Because we're sending weapons out. So if you really want your life to be better, we need to start transferring money to the programs in America. We need to start worrying about the politics that can help America. And most of all, we need to worry about love, family values, working together, loving one another, and most of all, not feeding into corruption or lies or manipulations. We all have to do our research. And what's lacking is common sense. Nobody has common sense. They throw common sense out of the window because they want everything to be easy. They want everything to be happy. And that's a big problem. You cannot throw your own common sense out the window just because you want things to be easy. Just because you want an easy choice. Just because you want an easy life. Just because you want easy finances. Just because you want your life to be easy, you're going to throw common sense out the window. You're going to throw the American people out the window. You're going to throw your family out the window. Anything that doesn't do you any good, you just throw out the window, right? Well, after many, 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 many years of people acting selfish or throwing their common sense out the window or being sheep or whatever you want to call it, of course we're going to have problems. And people are dying. I'm dying. I mean, at the age of 7, I was made crippled. And I continued my whole life. Why? Because the Department of Health and Human Services out of Massachusetts had a broken system. The doctors got reports of what were going on. The Department of Health and Human Services got lots of reports from teachers. And I mean, there's so much going on that if they actually was writing down what was going on, if they actually had my life and my concern, then something would have been done a long time ago, but it wasn't. Why is that? They're underfunded. You do not have the right funding going to the right places. Literally, you got single mothers suffering. You got 1/3 of the population either addicted to drugs or in prison. 1/3 of the population has been in prison or not. We literally have a large population in prison. We got like almost 2 million people in prison now, and almost 1/3 of our whole population has gone to prison. Now, I'm a Catholic who follows Jesus. I also have a lot of, I'm very open minded with other people's religions. I believe it definitely helps to convert people to any religion and have them be spiritual. People who have no belief in anything can become dangerous or selfish. So it's good to have some belief in something. And if you do have a belief in something, but you throw it out the window, all your rules out the window, then you're really not believing in it, are you? If you're following Jesus and he says to love one another, but you hate one another, I'm not sure you're following your own guidelines. I have my guidelines. Now, mine are very strict. People don't like my guidelines. They really don't. Like, for instance, I don't believe that I want to have sex with a girlfriend until we've spent a lot of time getting to know each other. My limit's 2 years, but they don't even want to wait a day. I usually push and push to wait and wait and wait. They don't like that. Why do I do this? Do you think it's because of my religion? Actually, this time it's not. I do it because it makes the relationship last longer. It gives you an understanding of who you're dating. You spend a lot of time getting to know somebody. You know their family. You know their history. You know their past. So then you can move on to the future. See, that's the problem with my father. He jumped, after my mother passed away, he had a big mess to clean up. He had a crazy mother, crippling, manipulating, brainwashing, and hurting physically and medically the child. There was so much going on that needed to be talked about. But did his third wife get to know all this before he married him? No. They did not get the time to know the family. They did not take the time to understand the past, so they were not able to move on to the future. So instead, all they did was make their lives happy and fun and leave everybody else around them to suffer. Fuck everybody else, right? Fuck the sons, fuck the sisters, fuck everybody, was their attitude. Literally, my mother just passed away. I'm literally having a lot of health issues for 25 years. There's so much red flags right before this. And did this third wife get to know my past? Did she talk to me about my past? Did she look through medical records and drive me around? No. She jumped right into it. Well, that's a problem. And not only that, they married only after a couple weeks of literally engagement. No, they knew each other for years, but they didn't know each other's home lives. They didn't know what was going on behind closed doors. This is why I want to spend a year or two getting to know my girlfriends before we have sex or move to the next step. Because I want to know what I'm getting myself into before I move to the next step of sex. Then there's engagement and marriage. Now, I wish it was get to know somebody, engagement, marriage, and sex. But nobody wants to wait for that anymore. Nobody wants to wait. So my order is a year or two, get to know them. Engagement, sex, then marriage. Most of the girls don't like this. And so I have to make concessions sometimes. I have to wait a year instead of 2 years. Or I have to give up the engagement or whatever. Well, I haven't had a girlfriend in 7 years. Why? Because all my time is spent cleaning up my father's and mother's mess. I spend all my time with the doctors. I spend all my time trying to get better. I have no time for myself because I'm giving all my time to my mother and my father's mess. Now, that's not right, but it has to be done. Now, do you think they care one bit that this is going on? No. They want me dead. The sooner I die, the sooner this all goes away. Literally, my own father wants me dead and gone. He doesn't want me speaking about this. He doesn't want it coming forward. He doesn't want me getting help with it. Because if he did want these things, then he would make choices to make it happen. But he won't even call and have a discussion about it. His third wife does not want to spend the time getting to know what happened before her. By the way, if you're wondering, first, second, third wife, the second wife is the one that crippled me and did horrible things to me. The third wife is my mother's best friend. And when my mother passed away at the age of 19, only a couple months later, my father married her best friend. So that's what that is. Now, I'm sure she might pretend that like she knows me or something, but she doesn't. She doesn't know the medications I was on. She doesn't know what happened to me in the hospital or the hospitals I went to. She doesn't know what my mother was doing to me. She has no clue what my education was. She had no clue what happened to me in New Mexico. She had no clue what was happening to me in Westford. She didn't discuss with me my issues. According to my stepmother, I'm just a druggie who's gone or steals or whatever. Whatever fits her narrative, so they get to be bad people. Bad, selfish, greedy people. Even though that can change. Everybody can ask for forgiveness. I have to ask for my own forgiveness. I stole my father's third wife's illegal medications. She had Xanax, Percocet with somebody else's name on it. Now, this might have been her passed away husband's, but there is nobody to give them to. There's no reason to have them. That was my mistake. I was never supposed to do that. If she asks me about it, I have to ask for forgiveness and say, yes, I stole your illegal Percocet and Vicodin. I also have to admit that I stole some jewelry. Now, I thought it was my passed away mother's jewelry. My father stole my inheritance, what a lawyer called me and told me about. Told me my father was pulling some funny business. So I pulled my father aside and asked him about it. He lied to my face. So at this point, I went to get my own inheritance. But I didn't know that this was his third wife's jewelry and not my second wife, what was my mother. And that is bad on my part. There is no good reason to steal. I don't care if it's jewelry, illegal meds, or an inheritance, or Social Security. It doesn't matter how you do it either. If I trick somebody into giving me money, that's still stealing. It's still manipulation. If I turn a car back on let's say that I'm a car salesman, and I turn the mileage back and sell you a car, I am still stealing from you. Maybe I did it in a certain way, but I am still absolutely stealing. This is the problem with me. I had to ask for forgiveness. I had to try to work on my part. Now I don't even take stuff when people give me permission. If it inconveniences somebody, I don't want it. I don't want it. If somebody out there has to suffer in some way because of a choice I make, I don't want it. I want nothing to do with it. And this is because I learned my lesson. Just because somebody stole from me does not give me the right to steal from them. Tit for tat. Oh, Jesus hates tit for tat. Absolutely. Because remember what Jesus said, an eye for an eye, and the whole world goes blind. And it's true. If you steal from me, and then I steal from you, the whole world goes blind. Because then you think you were justified in your theft. I think I was justified in my theft. So then you steal from me again in some justified way. And then I steal from you in some justified way. And then we still think we're justified. But neither of us really are. My father wasn't justified stealing my Social Security. My father was not justified stealing my inheritance. I was not justified stealing that jewelry. I was not justified stealing those illegal drugs. Even though somebody brought illegal drugs into the house and I felt justified that I could take them, that does not make it true. And even though my father feels justified in taking my inheritance because his name was on it too, and as long as I don't show up or as long as I don't ask for it, he can do it, he manipulated me to get it. That is still stealing. Maybe he feels justified into reappropriating my Social Security for his own house while I'm living in a program and they're trying to work with me on my Social Security. It was the rules. This program required Social Security recipients to have their Social Security so that they could hold on to it and teach them how to use it for an apartment. But my father decided to reappropriate those funds straight into his own pocket instead of to the program who was trying to teach me the skills I needed. That's also stealing. Now, it sounds justified on his part. I'm sure he can justify it all he wants. But none of these things are good. None of the things I stole is good. None of the things my father stole is good. None of the things my mother whacked me with is good. None of the drugs my mother poisoned me with good. None of this. My mother can say she was justified to give me a whole bottle of Ipecac because I was saying something in a certain way. But that's not true. There is no justification for giving extra medications. My mother can say she was justified in giving me all these drugs because I was acting a certain way. Once again, that's a lie, and she's not justified because I'm giving her information that she's ignoring. She purposely did not call an ambulance. She's avoiding the right doctors. She's lying when questions are asked. She's manipulating. She's making statements she knows isn't true. So there's no justification. If you're going to commit a sin, if you're going to commit or do something that's going to inconvenience another person or even make them suffer, there is no justification for making another person suffer. Just like on the news, the Palestinian people are being genocided, literally wiped out for the last 70 years or more. The last 20 years to 70 years. They've been killed, murdered. There's no justification for killing and genociding a people. But I hear on the news that it's justified because Hamas is a terrorist now, right? Well, how about before Hamas took power? There was Israelis killing and murdering women and children back in the 80s, 90s. How about then? Was it justified then? How about in the 2000s? Was murdering these Palestinians justified then? How about in 2010? Was it justified when they took their land and pushed them out? And now you hear in 2024, it's just, right? It's justified, right? We can kill as many people as we want because their leaders are terrorists. Well, this goes back 70 years. There is no justification for murder, just like there is no justification for sin.